The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, I'm pleased that the government has decided not to take its last call, because it gives the chance for the opposition to reinforce the position that we are in. Mr Speaker, what has become clear over the last few days is that this government has been captured. This minister has been captured by offshore people who are involved in the software industry. Mr Speaker, it is vitally important to thousands of jobs in smaller businesses around New Zealand that we have a clear policy in this area, one that is easily understood on the face of the legislation, and not one which has to be sorted out time and time and time again in the courts. Mr Speaker, I, like only a few members now, was a member at the time when Vodafone was trying to set up in New Zealand, and Telecom was the organisation that was the incumbent, and they chose time after time after time to try and block Vodafone, almost never successfully, but by using any possible ambiguity in the law to take a case, to take it at the High Court, to take it appeal, to take it to the the Court of Appeal, I think the Supreme Court didn't exist in New Zealand, but I think on occasion, sir, even to the Privy Council. Mr Speaker, and the reason that they were able to do that was that there was a bit of doubt in a number of areas of law that had become dated and did not work. So these people knew that they had the big pockets. Telecom clearly had the big pockets, and they knew that the longer they could delay, the better was their chance of preserving their monopoly and their position for a period of time. Mr Speaker, what we have now is a group of overseas-owned companies who had an agent who was working for them, who it is alleged, and I don't know this for a fact, but I will rely on the comments made by my colleague, the Honourable Leanne Dalzell, that the person who was the agent for these multinational software companies working against the interests of New Zealand software companies is now the person who is drafting the rules for the minister. Now, if that is the case, it is an absolute disgrace. An absolute disgrace. That person, if they are employed by Moby, and I want to say that I've worked with the chief executive I have worked with the chief executive of Moby before, Mr Small, David Small. I think he is a highly ethical person and who has an understanding of the rules of public service. Mr Speaker, I'm going to work on the assumption that he is not aware of what is going on here because it's happening down the chain a bit. But, Mr Speaker, I do give notice that the Labour Party will be pursuing this because it is just not ethical for someone to jump from the employee of the group of overseas-owned software companies into the job whereby they are drafting the rules and changing what was, I understand, the unanimous view of the Commerce Select Committee on this. And I tell you what, Mr Speaker, this issue is not a new issue. It is not a simple issue. I can remember discussions on this issue when I was the Minister of Economic Development, and that goes back, I presume, until the times it goes back discussions probably in 2006 and in 2007, around those times, Mr. Speaker. So it is not simple. The Select Committee, I think, made a lot of progress. They got the basic policy position right, and then the government, motivated by big offshore interests, working for, and I just want to now say, Mr. Speaker, going back, apparently the individual worked for Science and Innovation. I think that's in Moby now, is it? It is. But not at the time. But not at the time. The point that I want to make, Mr. Speaker, is that there was unanimity coming out of the Select Committee. There is another position that's come from the Minister, and there is now a third position which might even be better than the Select Committee position, certainly a bit clearer, that has been drafted by my colleague Claire Curran, with the advice of some people who have a lot of knowledge in the legal area and in the drafting area, and sir, it is something which will mean that the intention is clear and we are unlikely to get litigation in this area. Mr. Speaker, the member claims she's elegant in her solution, and I can accept that her claim is true, Mr. Speaker, but the point that I would like to make is that there are over 1,000 New Zealand companies, and not little companies. I don't know how many members opposite are aware of Orion Software and the incredible international work that they do. But I think most people are aware of Jade. People in this House who are not aware of Jade are people who are pretty ignorant. So they're the big companies, but there are over 1,000 small companies. Mr. Speaker, one can wander down Jackson Street in Petone and go upstairs to find probably a dozen places where people are developing software. Some of those places only have one person working in there. They're a sole trader. Some of them have 2, 3, 5 or 12 people working in there. Their businesses are being placed at risk by Craig Foss. And I just want to ask Craig Foss, why does he want to destroy the jobs that exist in Petone? Why does he hate New Zealand software developers so much that he wants Microsoft, that he wants other offshore, IBM and similar people, to be able to tie them up in courts when he could have clear law which will do what he says that he wants to do anyway?
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member. The time has come for me to leave the chair. This debate is interrupted. I shall resume the chair at 7:30.